get some of your thoughts. Outside of specifically your role as a realtor, what are some examples of things where you have given a referral, and how did it go, and how did it help someone? Anyone?
My best friend is an excellent landscaper, and so he's the person. Oh, somebody you can come in and get to do a really good job for cheap. Always for cheap, right? He's the guy I always refer to. There's many different things we can refer to, but you had an example.
Oh, never mind.
Okay, never mind. Probably another landscaper, right?
Outside of real estate.
Yeah, outside of real estate. Yeah.
I have a team of people that usually help me with remodeling, and sometimes people ask me for electrician or plumber, and I used to give my people to them.
Right.
And now it's not always positive experience because they get very busy, and sometimes when I need them, they say, "Oh, I don't have time this week."
Okay.
And the other not very positive experience, I was the only realtor they knew. Now they know a few other realtors, and
So you were getting too many referrals?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how many other people are getting too many referrals right now that they know what to do with? Right. So I mean, that it can come up though. Yeah, absolutely. What about just on base camp every day? What do we see all day long? Does anybody know a good contractor? Does anybody know? So you're constantly, people are asking for good referrals. So that's a pretty effective way, wouldn't you say, of asking for referrals? Right in company, right?
Right. So your friend who's the landscaper, how has that benefited him? Or does he not take your calls anymore?
Well, he's more selective with his time because he's a busy guy, and I'd like to say a small part of it comes from me, but yeah, I mean it's definitely a win for him being a self-employed entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or you have any specific, like not doing a realtor, because we're trying to stay away from that example right now?
I've done the same thing with different contractors and stuff, and so I try to refer the people that I am comfortable with. And what about you guys? I mean, how can we refer people to you? What's your ideas of how to handle that? In other words, when we get somebody that comes in looking for a loan, how would you suggest that we hand them off to you? How would you suggest that we refer them to you?
Give me their number.
Give you their number?
I think we're both good at what we're good at. We shouldn't be talking about loans, and you shouldn't be talking about real estate, really.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think if we've got a relationship and you feel comfortable with the realtor, then give one of the several of us a call,
right,
and hand it over.
Do you think it's important that I give them several realtors' names? I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't, because we don't want to be fighting over it.
Right, and I totally agree. What were you gonna say?
Well, if you know of someone who would be a good fit, and then that's what I would refer, and this person will be able to help you.
And we usually know what particular area they're looking in, so that makes a difference too. They're in Washington, and you guys probably, there's a few that won't want to go that far.
So this is good. We're getting some input, right? So big picture, right? Referring and thinking of examples, because what we want to get to, right, whether it's inside the business or outside of the business, is what's beneficial. So kind of what are benefits and what are risks. Travis, maybe you put a thing of benefits and risk up there, and we can get people's input on that, right? So, for example, one of the ones I thought about, there's a mechanic shop not far from my house, and most people, if you're not a gearhead or you don't know somebody personally who's a gearhead, that's a vulnerable transaction, right? I mean, would you all agree? I feel like I don't know. right? I take a car in, if it's, you know, older and outside of warranty, all that. I don't know if that ping, ping, ping sound is $30 or $3,500. I have no idea, right? So I refer to the shop that we've had a lot of experience with over time, and they'll tell us, you don't need that, do this. Here's a fix, we can do this. Here's what it is, here's what's eventually gonna happen, you can defer it, right? So in that scenario, what am I trying to do when I tell people to go there?
Go to somebody you trust.
Yeah, give them protection.
Help them out.
Exactly. In an area of potentially high anxiety, for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, right? And so, is that better than, well, I was going to use, let's see, we've got a lot of faces my era in here. Open the yellow pages, right? With a different class, I couldn't say that. I could say but you could do both, right? Do you just want to go to the yellow pages or go on the internet and that's all you've got? Or do you want somebody who says, I've been here, I've sent a number of people here, here's been our experience?
Then you want a recommendation.
Right.
Right.
Do you want?
So on a benefit, right, some trust or some trust, past experience, a little bit of assurance, right?
And what about reviews that you get online? Can those be trusted? Are people more likely to put negative comments or positive comments? And what can you how much can you really get from those online comments? Is it better to get that kind of a referral or somebody that you know personally giving you a referral?
It's easy. You don't have to go do the research. Somebody gives you somebody, instead of doing all your research and spending time figuring out what you want to do, somebody says, call this guy. I think it's one of the big keys is just simple.
Right.
Let's not lose the risk we heard, which was then they don't call them back, right? So,
You put your reputation out.
right, expounding on it, the big risk is if they don't do a good job and they don't represent well, right?
Right.
But you had said that you like the borrower just to call you or the client to just call you, right? And I agree with that, but I think there's actually even a better way to do the handoff. As far as I've got an agent that I've worked with for like the last 6 years, and what they will actually do is they will actually, call me from, like they're out looking at a house, and she'll call me directly and say, you need to talk with so-and-so, and like hand them the phone. She's really aggressive though. but it's like that way you don't put it in the borrower's hands to go home and, think about who we should call or what questions to ask. Because a lot of times they just don't even know what, it's like, hey, can I have some money to buy the house? They really don't even know where to start. And if we can, kind of help them and just guide them, not necessarily sell them a house like today, but guide them through the process of, here's what we need to do, here's what your credit looks like, we need to, do a few tweaks here and there, but get them set up on the right track to owning a home. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the fact that I know that there's been, different agents will say, well, I gave your card out like to 3 different people at an open house or something, and I never hear from any of them.
Right.
Ever. But if I've got their contact information, then I can just give them a friendly call, not a pushy one, just say, hey, I understand that you guys were out looking at this house, on Hillsborough Highway. Just wanted to let you know that I'm here to answer any questions or help you if you want to, talk about ideas of how, to buy your first home or whatever. Just open up the dialogue, and then they're comfortable, and then I talk really good about you. Loan officers at CrossCountry talk really good about their realtors because you want to build that teamship, you want to build that relationship. And you want your buyer to feel confident that you sent them to the right person, and I'm going to reiterate that you're like one of the best realtors in the world. You know what I mean?
So on risk and rewards, right? And again, we're a little unstructured today, but let's try and get the risk and rewards up there, and then talk about how functionally the relationship specifically between a realtor and their lender can work. Right? So we got a little bit there, but it gave us some risk and rewards, right? So is there benefit or risk in being as direct as the example that Lori gave of, here's a phone, talk to a realtor, or excuse me, talk to my lender when they're at a home.
I was interested to know how you feel about that.
I love it.
You do?
I really do. Here's the thing with her is I have to be available all the time. I mean, seriously, she calls me like 8:30 at night. She calls me on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. You know, I mean, it's just, but I know her well enough to know that anything she does, she's gonna do wholeheartedly, and it's not gonna be, you know, nobody's gonna run around wasting their time. She's very direct, she's really good, and, in fact, I'm trying to get her to come here, but it's, you know, one of those
So it
things
instills
that-
confidence in the buyer.
Yeah.
That this
Yeah, and
loan
yeah.
officer is confident they're gonna get their job, you know.
And I'll
get the
pre-qualify
loan
right
done.
there.
Right.
I mean, like, right there, they tell me, you know, what their income is, and stuff over the phone, or, you know, I mean, it's just, she just drives it in.
Tom?
You know, I've found that, and I do a lot of open houses, that the best time to be able to interact and make that happen is when they're excited about the property that they're in,
Exactly.
they're comfortable with you, and at that point, it's our opportunity to say, you know, I've got a great lender that I think would help you, or at least you'd be able to compare,
Yeah.
you know, what you found already to dealing with a broker, which is, I think, the best way to go. And if
Yeah.
it's okay, I'd like to contact Eric or
Mhm.
or whoever and be able to, have you meet them right here.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, just simply answer
Or
questions.
if that doesn't work, to get their information, say, is that okay? That I give your information to, and that way they'll be able to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And at that point, I call them the following, if it's Monday or whatever, and let them know that they'll be receiving a phone call.
So that's a great example of how that can work and how it should work, and we'll get that on the next slide too. But in terms of benefit and risk, Tom, how do you feel that is a benefit, right? Either to you or the client or
Well,
whoever.
it just, you're showing them that you care for them, and that you have interest in them, not necessarily just to sell them a house, but to be able to get the best service,
And you're knowledgeable, it sounds like you're knowledgeable,
deal
you know
with a good-
somebody, not just go find somebody, I don't know
Right,
anybody,
right.
it's like, hey, I know people around here.
Yeah, we
Just
write
get me
down
in touch with that.
customer serve or great service or, yeah.
So one thing I want to not forget before we get off this subject, I had to look for the one that says RESPA rules, by the way, but the rest of it is, you know, positive, negative, what
Right.
all about referring. So has anybody ever said or heard people that are realtors say, I give every one of my borrowers 3 cards because otherwise it's a RESPA violation? Has anyone heard that?
Yes.
I've heard that a lot
Yep.
over the years. Is that a RESPA violation?
I've heard people say we're supposed to. I mean, I worked at IBM many, many years ago, and we were supposed to give 3 references, and we never did.
Right.
I mean, if we did, one was this big, and the other 2 were, you know, you can read those. So I feel comfortable giving one.
And is it a
So long as you
RESPA
couch
violation?
it in, probably, I don't know actually.
It is not.
It is not, okay, that's fine.
So,
But I think it's
anybody-
fine if you say, look, it's entirely your choice, but I've worked with these people.
Of course, yeah.
You know, I'm very comfortable with them, but it's down to you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do the, here she is.
Right.
Because that's
No,
not my
yeah.
style.
Sure.
You know, I'm not
Yeah.
that pushy, basically.
Right.
but-
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. Style is very important too,
Yeah.
right? In
You've
terms
gotta
of the
do your own
relationship.
style.
Yeah.
I've been taught since 20 years ago that you don't steer.
Right.
So, you know, I, for instance, like I've got information, your information in my open houses, and then I also have another lender. And,
That Frank, he
but
just
I,
keeps
but I do that,
Yeah.
but I do that
He hates
because
dogs.
I let them know I've got 2 great lenders.
Yeah.
Not just one, because you focus on one,
Sure.
then they feel like you're steering them to that one.
So, and you brought up a great word, I'll address that too. So, without a doubt, no gray area, it is not a RESPA violation, okay? It is not. Nobody has ever been charged with giving in one referral. When does it become a RESPA violation? When you give a referral for anything of value, when there's an exchange, when you have a deal with a lender, or we have a deal with a realtor, or where we give you, if I say, great, thanks for the referral, here's that $100 gift card, or here's the whatever, then it's a RESPA violation. And it doesn't have to be a referral. We cannot exchange anything of value. In fact, we could not give you this class, a thing of value, if it was only to people who were giving us referrals, or we said you have to give us referrals if you come here. Okay? So you can be confident, and whether it's one or two, right? And we'll talk about how to refer those people, and Lori gave us a great example of one way, and we'll all talk about that a little bit. But I just wanted to clear that. It is not a RESPA violation. Plenty of other things can be a RESPA violation, right? You pay for my marketing, I'll send you my referrals. Anything like that can be a RESPA violation, but referring somebody is not a RESPA violation.
You can't tell somebody that they have to use a lender.
Right.
So even if that's your preferred referral partner, you can't tell them that they have to use that
I have
person.
to stop that then, huh?
You gotta stop that, Tom. Yeah.
You did bring up a good point, though. Steering is a thing in our business. We have on loan documentation anti-steering forms that have to be filled out, and basically we can't push somebody towards one investor, one program, or another to benefit ourselves. It's patently illegal. Steering
Title
is illegal.
services.
Anyway.
You're right.
Yep. Yep. We cannot steer the client. We can guide the client. We can give them advice. We can tell them what we think is in their best interest. But we can't make an effort to promote one service provider or another in order to benefit ourselves.
Right.
Okay. Anything else people want to add? Positive, negative, true, untrue, helpful, problematic in terms of referrals. And then what we'll do is we'll move towards more how those relationships work. What people have been successful with and what they haven't been successful with.
I would just say that probably working with a client, there's a couple of areas that you're going to direct people in. For example, a lender is certainly one. Inspections is another one where you may give them 2 or 3 different inspectors that you've worked with in the past that you're confident in their ability, and that they don't overblow things, because sometimes they want to make it look like there's really a lot wrong, or whatever, justification type of thing.
Right.
But
That freaks out first-time home buyers, huh?
it certainly can,
7
right?
pages on a brand new home, it's like.
And I have to say, I've been in the business a long time, so I've kind of got my lenders narrowed down. It sounds like this is a really good company. And Lori, when I heard you talk, you sound exactly like a particular lender that I work with all the time. Like last night I showed a house, they wanted to write an offer. Like right now, I called her, she jumped right on it and got on the phone with the client. They were able to answer her questions.
Right.
She gave me an approval letter. We've got an offer already submitted. So
Yeah, and you got
you
to do
being
all the
actively
exciting.
involved and willing to take that phone call at 8 o'clock speaks
Yeah.
very highly of you. And I would just like to reiterate that, like I say.
Brian and
kinda
Travis
got-
and I are strictly 9 to 5, but not if we have
Well,
a tea
not
time.
everybody is
or if we're thinking
accessible.
about something else.
Not everybody is accessible.
No, they're not.
You know?
Absolutely.
So,
Right.
yeah, anyway, so I would just say that what you said tells me a lot.
So the piece about you having certain areas, right, within a real estate transaction
Right.
that you're referring,
Right.
right?
Yes.
What's the benefit? What?
Well, the people that I refer my clients to are knowledgeable, they're licensed if necessary. Because they know me too, they're anxious to get it within deadlines or time frames that are important. So to me, that adds a lot of value too.
And how does it benefit your client?
Well, like I say, you're dealing with time frames all the way through a transaction. And so that benefits my clients if they need to have an inspection at 3 in the afternoon, 3 to 6, then the people that I refer them to are usually generally able to work within that time restraint and work with it.
How does it benefit you?
Oh, I think it just takes some pressure off, you know. I think working with companies is a valuable thing to me individually. If I've been around a company for quite a while and I'm familiar with the people that work for them, I trust what they do and what they say, can have a good conversation, a productive conversation with them, and get to the nitty-gritty. What are the problems in this home? Let's deal with those specific things. Let's not get too in the weeds about it, but let's work together to make this transaction continue to go forward. I mean, my clients are gonna want to buy the house. Are there things that might come up that might steer them in a different direction? Possibly. But as long as you have that open dialogue conversation, try to hone in on the things that are really important to my clients, and then try to work through the negotiation to get to them owning the home. I think that's what's the most valuable. You try to use people to keep the transaction moving forward.
Would
not
everyone,
throw roadblocks.
would everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
It's fine, it'd be hard to think of somebody who wouldn't agree with that, right? It was well said. So what is one of the net results of that? How it's helping you?
Trust.
Trust, and I would say professionalism,
Yes.
right?
The transaction.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the next page, but a point that I wanna make is, let's just say you all were doctors, not realtors, right? Same scenario, and if you have the doctor who diagnoses the person and they're like, yeah, your heart's shot or your knee's shot or whatever, you know, you really should see somebody. And the patient's like, great, who should I see? I don't know, probably a cardiologist or
Yeah, I can't steer you to it.
Yeah.
Here's a
I
yellow
don't,
paper.
I don't know, you should see someone who can take care of that for you, right? So that would be like you all saying, well, before you buy this home, you need an inspection, here's how it's different than an appraisal, blah, 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 and they go, well, who should I call you? I don't know, probably an inspector.
Here's a list of 500 of them. that
Right,
you just go
right?
down.
That does two things, right? It doesn't help them.
Right.
And it makes you look like that you're not the primary care physician.
Right.
And you guys are driving the bus on this thing, right? And they expect you to have the resources and the relationships and the knowledge. They don't expect you to do everything. So that patient doesn't expect the guy to do the knee surgery or the open heart surgery, right? But he's driving his health care. He's driving that bus. He's in charge. He's calling in the experts when they need to.
Yeah. Less time and less stress for the buyer.
Yeah.
Right.
I try to make it clear to them too, that the inspector that they choose is completely their choice.
Absolutely.
And if they have a friend that knows somebody who's been a good inspector for them, I encourage them, you know, go ahead, you know, if you know somebody that you have trust in, by all means.
Same when you need your knee fixed, right?
Yeah.
Need a orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
Gosh, my brother's an orthopedic surgeon and he's a really good one. Or I know a lot of people in that field. I'm gonna find my own.
So just make clear to them that
Yeah.
they're certainly not obligated to anybody that you refer them to.
Sure.
And do it with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Right.
be mean or try to direct them
Unless
and say,
that's your
this is
style,
who
we're
you
gonna
need
get
to
back
go
to style, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my background is I'm an engineer, and this
Uh-oh.
is kind of my second career. And I specialize, my focus is commercial real estate.
Okay.
I'm always looking for residential realtors, and so far, I had a good client base before the crash, before the bubble burst, and then that's changed. There's still a few of those people around, but afterwards, one of the things I just want to point out that when I make a referral to an agent, if they're busy, and they just say, yeah, I'll take the work, and then they don't perform on it, it really reflects poorly on me. And they will never do another deal with me, period, okay? And that's a really big deal.
On the risk, it's, you could look bad, right? By giving an referral, you're taking a risk, so.
That means if it breaks, I gotta
Yep,
put,
yeah.
if it breaks, I gotta put the pieces back together, it's gonna absorb a lot of my time, I'm not gonna be happy about it.
Lori, can you relate to that this morning?
Really, you want me to go there?
Well, just in very general sense.
Okay, so we have this other lender that we can I guess we kind of broker to them.
For seconds. Second
The
loans.
seconds, you know, we don't look for seconds, we're not really big into seconds and HELOCs, that kind of stuff. We use them and we assist our clients with them if it's needed. So, super long story short, actually 42 days long. I sent this file over to have a secondary, to get a second loan on it, right? Went through everything with the rep, I mean specifically, you know, I'm like, okay, they're selling this house, they're taking money out of this house to put on this jumbo loan. I mean, everything was like completely ironed out. You know, you can for sure do this. Yeah, okay. So it gets into underwriting. This is, like yesterday was 42 days. And, you know, typically seconds, they don't take that long. But they did a full appraisal, I mean, just totally put us through the ringer. And finally today, I'm like, I either have to have an approval or a denial because, you know, my buyers, we need to know what's going on. And long story short, they got all the way to the end and it's like, doggone it, we can't do that. It's like, oh my gosh. I'm fixing it now because I've got another lender that we're not even associated with. I just want these people to get their second taken care of. We're not gonna have, you don't get anything from it except for keeping clients happy, you know? But yeah, it really sucks when somebody gives you their word and completely says, yeah, no problem. And then you end up just, I mean, you look like a deer in headlights. It's like,
So I was gonna ask her how it made her feel, but she said, it really sucks. Can we all relate to that?
Yeah, really bad.
Sure, there's
I mean,
yeah.
that's the point you were bringing up, right?
So what I do, what I've done and what I'll continue to do is I do an extensive background check on whoever I refer to, and I make sure that they're qualified in that particular area, and I don't just refer to anybody because my reputation's on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have as a quality engineer, you know, what I did in the past is to audit vendors and so on, and I take the same approach with residential realtors.
That's great.
Okay, so for myself, since this is a referral class, I specialize in development land. I'm the one that takes it all the way to the end, what the product is at the end, put a flash plan together, and work it back to the value of the land. So that's my specialty, in case anybody's interested. Yeah.
I find that when you refer somebody that then they accept the mission, it's still up to us to call up that client and say, by the way, how's John taking care of you? And if you don't do that, shame on you, because maybe John got sick, or who knows, and maybe they didn't receive a call. So, I mean, trusting is good, but checking is better.
That's a good point. You really gotta have that communication, because
Yeah.
you had it before where it's like, oh, hey, I
and
text them, and it's like, no, they didn't get your text or something like that, or, you know, just some one-off scenario, so it's huge to have that
Right.
communication just in case someone's
and there
misreading
you're
it.
still on that, you're still part of that deal.
And you should be in the
At that
loop.
point, if there was a hiccup, then you're picking that ball back up saying, I apologize, but I'll take care of that right now.
And you know what, most of the time, I mean, seriously, we can all pretend like, oh, every closing is so smooth. It's not, there's always something, it's like, where'd that come from? You know, I mean, really, just
Absolutely.
water under the house. I mean, and it's, you know, August. I mean, just different stuff comes up, and you've gotta be a team with somebody to massage it through. Because honestly, most things you're able to massage through. There's very, very few things that would absolutely completely kill a transaction. Yeah.
Yes.
But
being
what I'm
safe,
saying is
guys.
most of the time you can massage it through. And you know, as far as you were saying about having people that specialize in different things and knowing their background, like when you called me yesterday for you know, the 203K or the rehab loan, and I'm like, you know, I maybe do, or I don't do them anymore, but I used to do like maybe 2 a year. And it was miserable for me, my clients, my realtor, and so we've got a team that actually specializes, that's all they do, is renovation, and I'm like, perfect. So I called Nikita yesterday, she, you know, got a hold of you, and everything was fine, but I would just mess it up, I mean, you know, I would. So it's just better for everybody to stay away from us.
Yeah.
I had, you know, we can check the companies that we refer to and the mortgage brokers and everything, but clients we don't choose sometimes. And I had a situation when I referred a client, a very trusted person.
Mhm.
And at the very last moment, the client didn't perform.
Right.
They were, he
Mhm.
went to something online.
Right.
And I don't want that, relationship to be affected because of the
Right.
client, because
Sure.
I can't control it.
Right.
That's great.
But
So, and that's a great transition to let's start talking about what those relationships look like, right? So the things like who can you trust and how, and when something bad happens because of the client, why it's beneficial to have that relationship. So, quick question, so we're all on the same page. What's the most important thing about a real estate transaction?
Your
That
client.
closes.
Your client would mess
Clients are
with
happy.
I would go with that answer.
What's that?
Getting it closed, right? I mean, a buyer and a seller have entered into an agreement that they both want. So it's our job to make that happen, right?
Yeah, but you gotta make sure it's done where everybody's happy and not upset,
Ideally.
even though it closed.
Right.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Ideally.
So just this is my 2 cents. I always go into a transaction, right? There's a happiness chart in my mind. My buyer has to be happy. My buyer's agent has to be happy. The seller has to be happy. The listing agent has to be happy. I have to get number one, right? I really, really want to get number two. I'd like 3 and 4 to happen, but frankly, that's not my goal. I mean, I'm going to do everything I can to make everybody happy and have it be happy,
Right.
but we're responsible to our clients and the people we have relationships with, right? And sometimes I will have, listing agents who are mad about a transaction, so then they're mad at me about that transaction, and no matter what happens, they're gonna be mad. And it's like, well, I'm sorry you're mad,
Yeah.
but you had a client who was selling a home and we got that home sold.
Right.
To the terms of the contract, because I can't do anything that's not to the terms of the contract, and if you weren't happy with the contract or how it went or whatever, I'm sorry, I wish you had been,
Mhm.
but my client's happy.
Yeah, the only reason I brought that up is because I've lived it all, everything, all my business now is referrals, past clients. And now I'm at that stage where I'm actually referring these past clients to other agents, which is really working out well but.
Everyone take Marvin to lunch after.
But doing that a lot.
That's great.
You gotta be.
But I just wanted to add that your lenders and you as agents, it's super important, of course, to have that dialogue and have the expectations set forth to the buyers so that they can expect something to potentially go wrong, something to go sideways, and anticipate those things ahead of time so that when they do come up, then it's already been talked about and discussed. Now, of course, there are certain things that do come up that may not have been planned, but it's really important that we have those conversations so that those expectations are out of the way.
I got a question.
Right.
How many of you guys, as a listing agent, have called the loan officer on the other side, or the buyer's agent, before you even accept the offer, right? That happened, it's happened almost on every transaction that I've had for, probably for like the last couple months. And
Thank you all for doing it.
yeah, well, yeah, because the
I wish
selling
you
agent will
would.
tell me, it's like, hey, be ready, so-and-so's gonna call you, and so that's when you gotta know that loan officer's definitely on your team too, because they've gotta be able to make the listing agent feel fluffy and good, and, you can't ever say, too much, but you can indicate very strongly that these are good buyers, I don't anticipate any tragedies during this, but as long as the listing agent knows that you're there to work it out too, and that builds a lot of confidence in them accepting the offer. I know it does.
So one of the things, taking that to referral relationship and how it can help, one of the things I am happy to do on every transaction, but all the realtors I work normally with know this, is once they've presented the offer and they've got my pre-approval letter, I will call the listing agent proactively. So it does a couple of things, right? If it's a competitive situation, if you're the listing agent, do you feel better about that or a pre-approval letter from Quicken, right? So if you're looking at similar offers, and those are the two things, and I call and I say, hey, you just got an offer on this property from my clients, you know, Myron presented the offer, I just wanted to call, make sure you got the pre-approval letter and let you know that I really have looked at these borrowers, they really are approved. I've worked with Myron, he does a great job. Is there anything I can tell you, right? They might ask me something and I'll say, I can't tell you that. How much money do they have? How much money? They're very well qualified, right? The other thing that I'll do on those phone calls, particularly in multi-offer situations and with all over the board mixed success, how does our offer look? Sometimes they won't tell you, but they'll tell me, right? How does our offer look? I might hear, I don't know yet, you're one of 11. So I'm gonna take that back to Myron and I'm gonna say, hey Myron, just so you know, we're one of 11. Or they might say, we've got, you know, 2 cash offers, but they're low, right? So any of that information I bring back to the person that I know and we're used to working with, and that it may or may not be valuable, right? But having that synergy together is valuable.
Communication.
Absolutely. So, did you want to add something to that one? I was just going to ask next, how's a good, let's get to the benefits of a good referral relationship and some more examples, right? So you gave the example that you have this multi-year relationship with a realtor and you know that when you see her number pop up at a Saturday between 2 and 4,
you answer her phone calls no matter what. You just answer.
She's going to see somebody on that phone.
She's pretty aggressive. I mean, I love her dearly, but she is aggressive. And seriously, I was in the shower and I heard my phone ringing, and I'm like, oh, you know, I'll get in a second. I was a little busy, and you know, hear it go off again. And seriously, by the time I got out of the shower, she called 4 times. It's like, what? You know? I'm like, where were you? I'm in the shower. You know.
Because she knows you always answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like I couldn't write that.
Is Lori okay?
Yeah.
And another thing on that, which I don't know if you guys have been seeing, maybe it's my generation, but I've been seeing a lot more like, you know, you get a number, you call the person, and they text you back, and they kind of just want to text for a while, and that's always good. Like, I'm happy to text with borrowers all the time on that. You know, eventually there needs to be a phone call typically, because there's a lot to go over just text message, but that's one thing to keep in mind, you know, just knowing your buyer. Sometimes you're talking to, you know, if it's a really quiet, reserved guy, and he's, you know, especially if he's younger, he might be more tech. You know, I've done like on video on my computer instead of meeting. I used to meet every face-to-face when I first got into business, but now it's like they never want to come down and meet face-to-face. And I love that because I like to really give the full presentation on like showing everything. There's a lot going on when you get a mortgage. It's the biggest day of your life. So some people are just like, oh, you know, send me disclosures. But keep that in mind, you know, sometimes just like shoot them a text, and they feel a little more comfortable going, hey, this is, you know, so-and-so. I'm working with realtors. She said I should reach out for you to learn more about getting pre-approved, and then you can text that way. But yeah, just getting to know who you're working with and kind of getting to read for them. If they're, you know, people that are always chatty and talking, they're probably happy to have a phone call. If they're really, you know, quiet, reserved, and kind of seem shy, sometimes, you know, offer, you know, you shoot them a, you know, email. I feel like is not the best option because that's something that gets put off a little bit more. You know, some text out people pull out an email, but if you like shoot them an email later, then odds are I'm calling you in a couple days, and be like, I never got an email. But text, I mean, a lot of people just feel, I've noticed that a lot more, there's a lot better, more comfortable doing that, and it's like, eventually you gotta get them on the phone because there's a lot of stuff to talk about, but that's something just, you know, being aware of who you're talking to and kind of get a read on them and offering all the options.
I like that because I'll even text somebody, let them know I sent an email.
Yeah.
I do that too.
Because,
Seriously. It's like,
I mean, I don't know about you
email.
guys, but as realtors, we get tons of people wanting our money. So we've got
Yeah.
our email addresses out there all over the place.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
If you set up you know, ping every time you get an email, forget it.
Yeah.
You know, so
Drive me crazy.
So let's build, maybe flip that over, Travis, and let's build the right relationship. What do you want from a referral relationship? And right now, we've talked about different types of relationships, but let's talk about the realtor-lender relationships. What do you want, and what are the benefits? And what does that look like? With examples too. Yeah, Kathy?
follow up.
Okay.
And the reason being, sometimes there's technical information that you guys need from the client, and they're like, that have no idea what that meant. And so sometimes it's helpful, to know kind of where you are in the process, where if we can help facilitate, you know, I heard, you know, did you hear from so-and-so or whatever about this or that? I had one incident where the lender asked my clients, for first-time homebuyers, asked them for some information, they weren't really clear on what it was they were asking for. So there was this complete disconnect, and when I called the client, or when I called the banker back to find out, you know, where are we at, what's going on, and she said, I'm really super busy, I'm so busy I can hardly breathe, and I was like, no, you can't breathe, you're gonna die. And that's not any good to me. So my clients are gonna need to hear this stuff in layman's terms. So I didn't lose her after that.
Yeah. Has anybody else had that before, where I'm really busy on other fill in the blank, whether it's, you know, a car you're getting done or something else, and your service provider, or in this case a referral partner, is like, yeah, I'm too busy to deal with that. It's like, I remember telling an attorney one time that I need to go somewhere. What do you mean? I know mine is a small case, but it's the only one in your whole friggin' law firm that I care about. Right? Remember the old FedEx, our most important package is yours? You gotta strive for everybody to feel that way, right? Even when you're really busy, and follow-up is a key component. So I agree, and I would expand follow-up to communication. Can we all agree that's one of the things that we want?
Let me really insert really quick, because when I
Yeah.
called them, she said to me, I have asked them for that 3 times. And I said, if they didn't hear you or understand it, you haven't asked them at all.
Right.
And so, I mean, because that was the feedback I was getting from my buyer.
Right.
And to your point, then if there's the disconnect between the buyer and the lender, and being able to talk to the agent and say, hey, we're having difficulties getting these documents, can you help us out?
Right.
You know.
I've asked them for pay stubs 3 times, they haven't sent them.
Right.
Can you help?
Right.
Right? Yeah.
I was gonna say that, cause you know, I mean, you can close a transaction in 30 days, so, I mean, I know some lenders are like, they do a weekly, this is what we're doing this week,
Yep.
but I'd almost up that to like twice a week, because 30 days is a really short period of time. So at least twice a week, you know, have your lender come out and say, this is what we've done, this is what we need to keep you, because the first 10 days, I tell any buyer, it's gonna be a fire hose. So just be, it's gonna be stressful, you're gonna be asked for everything, so we just need to, you know, keep on top of it, and the biggest part's the money. So, you know, we need to, if you do it even just twice weekly, then I, as a realtor, don't have to have that on, because I have it on my checklist, call the lender, you know,
Right.
so I don't have to have that, or I can just check it off.
Right.
So I think you bring up a great point. So and this is, again, we'll each give examples. I do just, whether you ask for it or not, a weekly update, I send it to both agents and title. It's different than my communication with the borrower. Target dates, all that, I do it once a week, right? If we're partners and you say, I need to know twice a week, I can make sure you and I have another conversation. But it's important for you, with your partner, to set that expectation. Hey, I would love to refer you business, but and don't feel bad to ask, right? I would love to refer you business. Would any of us like to hear that from realtors? I would love to.
Yeah, every day.
And then if that comes with a but or a condition, are we willing to listen?
Absolutely.
Are you all willing to listen if somebody who has buyers who comes to you and said, I'd like to refer you business, but here are my expectations or my needs, right? You're willing to understand that and give you to them. I mean, this is how I do it for everybody, but if we're partnering up and you make it clear, this is my expectation, and I give you 1 a week and not 2, is that giving you what you want out of the relationship? No, and you're gonna go find Ryan or Lori or Travis, and they're gonna go 2 a week's no problem.
And to expand those, I was just gonna say, it's also, you know, you be getting milestone updates as well. So, you know, it's like a minimum of once a week. But if the appraisal comes in on Monday and, you know, we're doing Friday updates, it's not like you're gonna wait till Friday to be like, oh yeah, by the way, the appraisal came in on that. So you're gonna be definitely getting the big milestone updates.
Yeah.
Typically probably turns into more about 2 weeks in the communication, but you're just never gonna go 2 weeks without hearing from your realtor on anything, even if it's a real rural property. The appraiser says, you know, not going back till till Wednesday, we're still gonna be working through underwriting, doing the rest of the hoops on that. Sorry to cut you off on that, by the way.
And the nice thing is, once you have that relationship and you work with this person on multiple transactions, you get a feel for each other, right?
Right.
So I do the once a week updates, but I also know that if the appraisal comes back and it doesn't meet, you know, the purchase price, I'm not gonna go, well, they'll find out next Wednesday.
Guess what?
Right. Or if I know a particular realtor and they wanna know certain things, and I just know that from working with them because we have this relationship, I'm gonna call them about that.
And how they wanna communicate, cause some agents like, you know, the phone calls, some like texts, some like emails, so, and you kinda get to know which one's like what, and that's just how you communicate it.
Like Travis talked about his videos, he probably does videos with his referral partners. Mine would go, what are you doing?
Do you guys do videos? Does anybody? They just scare me. Really?
Chris does, yeah.
Yeah, I do Facebook Live videos for open houses.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, you're familiar with Bomb or Co-Video,
Yeah.
right? Those are, I mean, people don't want to read anymore. Yeah, Co-Video's mine. Yeah, it's like, especially when I'm writing out, like, you know, here's your FHA option, your USDA option, and this, and I'm writing out all the differences and all that in the email. I'm like, half the time, I'm like, all right, are they really going to still be reading at this point of my email right now? I'm like, there's no way, but you just shoot a short video, just be like, yeah, FHA, USDA, 100% financing, but you can only buy in these areas. You're qualified for less because ratios go to 29% on housing, where FHA is going to allow you to go a little higher. And then they can be in their car or whatever, just listening to it talk. So I get really good feedback on that. I've recently been doing that.
Yeah.
But this is one of the things you're like, someone's like, you didn't tell me, you know, back before this whole video thing. It's like, well, look at the email. It's like, okay, it's not the first two sentences, and they're like, you didn't tell me. Like,
Yeah.
I make sure we got to get you every kind of possible way to get the knowledge.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
cause
a bunch of
I
girls
was,
and guys too.
my son is 29, and he and his fiance, I mean, they're just like scared to death to buy a home. And you know, they're both teachers, they got great incomes, they have no student debt, I mean, they're like the dream for a lender. But they're just scared to death, they just don't wanna buy a home because rent is cheaper. Okay, well, for them, they're in South Carolina, but they just feel like they, you know, it's like they just don't wanna get past that, and I'm telling them, Daniel, you will never see rates this low again. My first home was 16%.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
there's
it's
teacher
like,
loans too.
Yeah.
Tell them,
I
there's
know,
specific
but-
teacher loans.
But, and so I'm just saying, so
Yeah.
I had talked to, this little
Yeah.
Christmas party thing, and so there's a Linda there, and I was talking, and he sent me a whole stream of videos for like first time home buyers. So I didn't send the whole stream, I just picked out the ones I thought he'd like, and I sent them to him. But they're just like, how do you get them over this hump? They're thinking, it's like you have to start your wealth building in your 20s, because then when you're 50, you know, you can buy that $600,000 home or whatever. But
And
you
how
wanna
does
start now.
how does having a strong referral relationship, how could it help that situation?
Well, this lender that I met, and he sent me some videos, and I was like, okay, I'll send those to my son to kind of get him, you know.
Reinforcing what you're saying, you know, they don't always want to hear it, like, you know, especially if it's your significant other. Sometimes you could tell them something, and they're like,
Yeah, they're
they
not
wanna hear
hearing
it
from
somebody
mom,
else.
yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things that we run into all the time is that exact scenario, and it could be a son, it could be just someone they know, it could be a potential client, right? And when we have that relationship, and realtors actually know us, and by know us I mean we know each other, we know how we do business, we know how we can help each other, we're sounding boards for each other. I'll call up a realtor I work with, and in fact I called Paul on one early, and I said, this contract, the way I'm reading it, is contingent on the sellers finding a home. I'm like, is that weird? He's like, yep, that's what it says. Yes, it's weird. It's not illegal. It's not anything like that, right? So having those, but in a scenario like that, we get stuff all the time. These people are just scared to go out. They should buy a house. They should buy a house. They have great jobs. Rates are never going to be this low again. You start building all those reasons, but they just won't do it. So depending on who that person is, it might be a email introduction. It might be something, and we all are very practiced at saying, so whatever your fears are, the worst thing that happens with us talking to you is you find out they're true.
I tell them they are buying a house, it's just for somebody else.
There you go.
Exactly.
Best thing that happens is you go, oh wow, I can do that and I can do that now and it only costs this much, right? But then you know, and even if it's that worst case scenario, because we get all the time, my credit's bad, I can't afford this, that's okay. But let somebody who does this for a living that you trust look at it and say, well, you're right, your credit is bad, or your debt to income ratio is out of whack. Here's what needs to happen, right? And maybe that's a 6-month plan, maybe it's a 3-year plan, but at least they know, right? Knowledge is power. There's a reason that's a saying, right? Because then they know, and they know what they can work on. If they choose to keep renting, they can choose to keep renting, but they know what their options are. So great reason to have strong referral relationships. I took partnerships off of this because they're not technically partnerships, right? We're not financially intertwined. They're relationships. And relationships take practice and nurturing. And have any of you, like me, had a little tiff with your referral partners, right? And sometimes it ends the relationships and sometimes it doesn't, right? If you just clearly aren't seeing eye to eye anymore, that's one thing. But if it's a, hey, you did this happened, how do we fix it? Oftentimes, like other relationships, you come out stronger at the other side. So we've got what we want follow-up, we want regular updates, we want communication, how we want it, right? How we want it and how we know the other person needs it.
Tailored communication.
Yeah, tailored.
Yeah, professionalism, and the tailored thing, I like that because depending on your client, if they're good at the technical terminology, fine, but if they're not, it's not gonna soak in. Ask a buyer the difference between an appraisal and an inspection, and they usually don't understand.
Well, half my friends think I show people houses when I'm a mortgage loan officer. They're like, oh yeah, you sell houses, right? I don't know.
So there's a lot of perceptions out there.
So, we're coming up on having earned your hour. We can all chime in with a couple last things. Here's my takeaway about good relationships. They help the clients and they achieve what this is all about, which is having a transaction and increasing the likelihood that everybody's happy, right? And they do that. If I go back to what I've been told by so many people over the years, that I give out 3 cards because it's a RESPA violation or because I think it's the right thing to do or whatever. As a borrower, right, as somebody who's trying to buy a home, I've got a lot on my mind. Going out and figuring out who to hire to do a loan and not getting strong guidance from the person who's my primary care physician in the example we used, right? That slows them down. Here's 3 cards. You've just given them work. So a way I would suggest, Chris, I'll hit you in just a second. The way I would suggest doing it is handing a card of somebody you know and trust and have that relationship with, right? And you might have 5 people you feel that way about. That's okay. Hand them the card and say, give Ryan a call. He does a great job for you. If for some reason it's not a fit, let me know. I've got other people I can refer you to, or certainly if you know somebody you want to use, but Ryan knows what he's doing, give him a call. Versus, here's 3 names, go find out who you want to use, or I don't know, check out the internet. Because if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. Or somebody who advertises on the radio line.
2%.
Chris.
That's basically what I was gonna say, just have your script. I've worked with this person in the past, we've both had successful transactions. And if you want, I can give you some other names, or you can find someone of your own, but I have a personal, professional relationship with this person. And you basically just give them the option. It's like, here, you can have this one, or if you want more, I can give you more.
Yeah, and another benefit to me about strong partnerships, if Chris is doing that for me, right, that's another level of accountability of that going well, right? Because like you all, our business comes from referral base. And if we burn that bridge, it's not just one loan, right? A deal that you screw up and it doesn't happen, that's not just one loan. That's all the loans you didn't get from their friends and family and their next house and all that. Well, we're the same way, right? And so if Chris is handing my card out and saying that, I'm trying to do a good job for everybody, but there's an added layer of accountability there that's good for the client and good for the relationship.
Or just tell your client that your gal will give him a call in about an hour.
Some
Seriously, I love that. It's
And
like,
that's some
she'll give you a
people's
call.
style.
Well, I was gonna say, one thing that I've found very effective, but with being a partnership, it's, you know, at the end of the transaction, I always ask for them, when the borrower's pre-approved, that's a good opportunity to say, you know, anybody else you know, they're bragging about to me, anybody else you know looking to buy a house. Try to do it when they're happy, you know, like when the emotions are high, because there's a lot of time where they're trying to find their tax returns and all that, and it's not like, oh yeah, by the way, you know, you're trying to buy a house. It's like, no, yeah, once they're pre-approved, they're excited, here, congrats, you're up to 350. Anybody else, once they get in contract, another exciting point to ask right there. And then again, at closing is a great time to ask. And it's a scenario where obviously if we're working together, if you call me up and say, hey, I got John who wants to buy a house and I get him in contract, and if I get any, you know, I try to get at least two leads from every lead, and some get 0, some get 5, but they're going back to you. But at the end of the transaction, it's one of those things, of course, no obligation, but if they have a buddy who goes, oh, do you know a realtor, and they go to one of you guys, then that's works out great for me. If it's a great transaction, I would like to define a successful transaction as the right to ask for a referral from the borrower. But if they go to you, then you hopefully, you know, maybe go, okay, here's Travis, we worked together before. If their friend goes, oh, I need a good lender, come to me, I'm going back to you because you sent me that referral. It's not like I'm gonna go, oh, I'm gonna try to go bait some other agent in with it. So that's part of a big part of the relationship. You're just doubling up your reach out there.
And for the years-long relationships, that works really great. I got Ryan as a client, you know, from you. I got her from Ryan. I'm going to ask, oh, so you're using it as well, right? And I'm going to try and bring it in. And every conversation, by the way, that a good lender partner has with that client that has anything to do with the house or the appraisal or any of that, they should be bringing you up. Every time an appraisal comes in high, I'm like, Marvin does a great job negotiating. He got you that house for less than it's worth, right? You know, things like that. You bring it up. When they say, oh, we have an inspection, whatever. Oh, are you using, you know, the inspector that I know that you refer? You know, that just keeping that circle tight, that we all have their best interests involved. It makes people feel safe. It makes things go a lot smoother.
What's a good time to ask for a referral? What do clients say? I mean, what are some of the words that they're saying that are going to be kind of a good trigger to ask for that referral?
When they're saying yes.
When they're saying yes, when they're saying thank you.
When they're agreeing with you, that would be the best time to ask.
Anytime I say thank you, that's when I think is probably the best time to ask for a referral. And then how do you ask for a referral? What do you say?
Give me business.
I just had a lunch with a client or as our first meeting, did a flyer presentation at lunch, and based on her reaction to it, she said, wow, that was really informative. I just gave her a whole bunch of information, and so I took that opportunity to, if you know anybody else who would benefit from a meeting like this, here's a few more cards. Awesome. Even at the initial meeting, would be a good time to do it, if they're happy with what you told them.
Right, exactly. And has that been successful for you so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, whatever works. If it is working for you, great. You know, use whatever's working. I like to ask if they'd be kind enough to introduce me to somebody. You know, I wrote down, would you be kind enough to introduce me to 3 other people in your network? You know, if it's a business type of a relationship, you're talking to a builder, or you're talking to a CPA, you're talking to a lender. Would you be kind enough? What are they going to say? No, I'm not going to be kind enough to help you with that. Their tendencies, yeah, sure. You know, I'd love to help you. People want to help. So just don't be scared to ask. Just ask for the referral, and you know that's the best way to get them. Just ask, open the mouth, right?
Right. Go last one with Kathy.
Okay, this is a
and then
technical question, so I don't know if it's the right timing, but Quicken's very helpful. And so it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is a regulated thing, so that the interest rates, because my answer is, well, you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later. So if they're offering you a lower interest rate, it's because you're going to need to come in with more money up front. Is that still true?
Typically, yes. If you drill down on any of them that say the rate is something, right? and depending on how egregious it is, it might be, yes, if you put 70% down, have an 800 credit score, blah, blah, blah. Or some of them are just, that's the rate, and then in small print, it says the assumptions that they make, oh, and you're paying 0.872 points for that.
Yeah.
Upfront.
Or they'll have their processing and underwriting fees are huge, and they'll charge for the BOE. It's pretty tricky. I mean, it's all pretty
They all have-
competitive out there. There's certain places.
We're officially done. If you're not signed on this, come sign it. We're happy to hang out and talk with any of you that would like to continue to ask any type of lending questions. Thanks for your indulgence.
Thanks, guys.
For this new venue, or this new style.
Oh, also, I wanted to ask you guys before y'all leave, for future classes, would you guys be interested in a class that would go over objections and common things that you're gonna, that you already have to deal with when you're getting, when you're going out and talking to people? Would that be interesting? Anybody? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Good job.
All right. So just for a little bit, and then let's maybe head over to the office here.
Oh, sure.
If you have it.
Looking for my check.
Oh, I'm Brian, by the way. Yeah, nice to meet you. Got your card there, so I want to give you my card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you work out of this office?
I do. I'm here pretty much every day.
All right. So hopefully, I'm new in the industry. I haven't so really great. So really great. Fantastic. So taking every opportunity possible. I was the automotive service advisor, customer service technician. So I pretty much everything.
So you're